Ladies, let's be real. Men aren't just drawn to looks. That may catch his eye, but it's your habits, your energy, and the way you show up that capture his soul. The truth is, attraction isn't about being perfect. It's about creating a connection so magnetic. He doesn't just want you, he craves you. Today, I'm going to break down 3 feminine habits that make a man addicted to you, not in a toxic way, but in a way that builds respect, desire, and lasting love. And once you understand these, you'll never question your worth again. When we talk about what makes a man truly addicted to a woman, it always comes back to one thing first: the way she makes him feel when he's around her. And this isn't about trying to impress him or bending yourself into something you're not. It's about the energy you radiate, that emotional warmth you carry. Think about it, Ty, when someone steps into a room with a calm, inviting presence, you can almost feel it before they even speak. That's exactly what men get hooked on because it's rare. In a world where everyone is rushed, defensive, or too guarded, that kind of energy feels like a breath of fresh air. Now, emotional warmth doesn't mean being overly sweet or fake. It's not plastering on a smile when you're upset or forcing yourself to play nice when you don't feel like it. Real warmth is about openness, kindness, and authenticity. It's the way you look at someone when they're talking and actually care about what they're saying. It's the patience in your tone, the gentleness in your touch, the willingness to listen without needing to fix everything. For a man, that experience is magnetic because it allows him to let his guard down. And let's be honest, most men don't get that often. Men are trained from a young age to hold it all together, to stay strong, to keep emotions in check. So when he meets a woman who naturally creates a safe space where he feels like he can be himself without judgment, that's when something shifts. He doesn't just like being around her, he starts to need it. He starts associating her presence with relief, peace, and even joy. That's why emotional warmth is so addictive. It's not just love or attraction he feels, it's the way she helps him feel at home in his own skin. Think about those moments when you've seen someone's walls drop. Maybe a man who's usually reserved suddenly opens up to you about something personal. Why did that happen? It wasn't because you had the right answers. It was because you created the right feeling. And that feeling makes him want to keep coming back again and again because it's rare for him to find it anywhere else. And here's the key: you don't need to force this. You don't need to become someone you're not. In fact, men can sense when it's manufactured. Emotional warmth flows when you are grounded in who you are, when you take care of yourself, when you manage your own stress, when you're not pouring from an empty cup. That's when it becomes natural. That's when your presence alone becomes comforting and inviting. This doesn't mean you never show anger or frustration. It doesn't mean you're always calm or cheerful. It means that at your core, you approach people with grace instead of judgment, with compassion instead of criticism. And men notice that instantly. They'll tell you they love your smile, or your laugh, or your vibe, but what they're really addicted to is how your warmth makes them feel better about themselves when they're near you. A man will never forget the woman who gave him peace in a chaotic world. He may forget the dates, the gifts, even some of the words, but he won't forget how she made him feel seen, safe, and valued without him having to earn it. That's the kind of energy that doesn't just attract, it captivates. And that's why emotional warmth is one of the most powerful feminine habits you could ever carry, because it doesn't just draw him close. It makes him never want to let go. Playfulness is one of the most underestimated qualities a woman can bring into a relationship, but it's also one of the most irresistible. A man can find beauty anywhere. He can meet intelligence in 1,000 different conversations, but when he meets someone who can make life lighter, who can laugh easily, and who knows how to turn the ordinary into something fun, that's when he feels like he's found something he doesn't want to lose. And it's not because life is always easy. It's because life is often heavy, and when you can bring that spark of lightness into it, you become the person he naturally gravitates toward. Think about how much tension men carry. The expectations, the pressure, the responsibility, it stacks up. And then imagine how powerful it feels for him to step into your presence and feel it all lighten. That doesn't come from being silly all the time or cracking jokes nonstop. True playful femininity is about the way you carry yourself with ease. It's about being able to tease without cruelty, to laugh at yourself without shame, to create moments that break up the seriousness and remind him that life isn't only about stress and survival. That kind of energy is rare, and it's contagious. When you bring playfulness into a connection, you do more than make him laugh. You build chemistry. You create inside jokes that only the two of you share. You turn small, mundane moments into memories that stick. Suddenly a trip to the grocery store or a lazy Sunday afternoon isn't boring. It's special because of the way you add light to it. And men crave that. They don't always know how to put it into words, but they know they feel better when they're around you. They know they laugh more, they smile more, they feel younger, freer, and more alive. That's the power of your playful energy. The truth is, a lot of people take themselves too seriously. They guard their pride, they avoid embarrassment, they're too afraid to look foolish. But when you're not afraid to let your guard down, when you can laugh at the little things, trip up, and keep smiling, or dance in the kitchen without caring how you look, you invite him into that freedom. You're showing him it's safe to drop his guard too. And when a man feels safe to relax, to laugh, to be goofy without judgment, that's when he starts feeling addicted. Not to the moments themselves, but to the way you make those moments come alive. Playful femininity isn't about acting childish, it's about embodying lightness. It's not about ignoring responsibility, but about not letting responsibility steal all the joy. And this is where men find themselves drawn in deeper. Because if you can handle life while still holding on to laughter, if you can be strong without losing that spark, then to him, you become unforgettable. You stand out because the world can be heavy, but you remind him it doesn't have to be heavy all the time. A woman who knows how to play, to laugh, to bring joy without forcing it, is a woman a man never wants to let go of. Because in her presence, life feels not only worth living, but worth enjoying. One of the most attractive and addictive habits a woman can carry is consistency in self-respect. And let me be clear, this is not about being arrogant, it's not about being untouchable, and it's not about acting like you don't need anyone. Self-respect is about valuing yourself enough to show the world, and especially the man you're with, that you live by standards, not by moods. It's about showing that you honor yourself, not just when it's convenient, but always. That consistency is what makes him pay attention, what makes him step up, and what makes him realize he can't treat you carelessly and still keep you. See, anybody can set a boundary once. Anybody can say, I won't tolerate that, in a moment of anger or disappointment. But what really earns respect is when you mean it, when you don't back down the next day just because you're afraid he might walk away. That's where the power lies. Men are naturally wired to test limits, not always consciously, but in little ways. If you let disrespect slide once, he'll notice. If you compromise your worth just to keep the peace, he'll notice. And once he sees inconsistency, he knows he can push further. But when you're consistent, when your words match your actions, he understands that your respect for yourself is not negotiable. This doesn't mean you have to be harsh. It doesn't mean you have to constantly correct him or call him out. In fact, self-respect is often quiet. It shows up in the way you carry yourself, the way you don't chase, the way you don't beg for attention, the way you refuse to settle for less than what you know you deserve. It's the calm confidence in saying, I'm worth being treated right, without needing to scream it or prove it. That quiet strength is addictive to a man because he knows he can't play games with it. He knows he has to rise to the standard you've set. And here's the part a lot of people miss. When you consistently respect yourself, you also inspire him to respect himself more. A man may not say it out loud, but he pays attention to the way you handle your life. If he sees you protecting your time, valuing your energy, not tolerating drama, and holding firm to your boundaries, he'll begin to mirror that. He'll want to rise to meet you where you stand, because he knows if he doesn't, he'll lose you. That's the addiction. You become the woman who makes him better simply by being who you are. Now, I know sometimes it feels easier to bend, to compromise, to give in because you're afraid of losing him. But here's the truth. Every time you sacrifice yourself, respect to keep a man, you lose a little bit of yourself in the process. And the more of yourself you give away, the less magnetic you become. Because men don't stay addicted to what comes easy. They stay addicted to what they know is rare. And a woman who consistently respects herself is rare. She's not moved by pressure. She's not swayed by charm. She doesn't fold just because she's scared of being alone. She knows her worth, and that makes him want to fight to prove he's worthy of standing next to her. A man might be drawn to your beauty. He might be intrigued by your charm. But what keeps him addicted is the knowledge that you respect yourself too much to ever accept less than real love. If there's one thing that men crave more than anything, it's to feel understood. And this is where the power of truly listening with presence comes in. Most people hear words, but they don't really listen. They're too busy thinking about what they're going to say next, or judging what's being said, or trying to come up with a quick solution. But when you give a man your full attention, when you're present with him in that moment, you create something that feels rare and unforgettable. It's not about agreeing with everything he says or fixing his problems. It's about making him feel like his voice matters, that his thoughts have weight, and that you actually care about the person behind the words. You have to understand that for many men, opening up doesn't come naturally. They've been conditioned to be strong, to hide weakness, to keep their feelings in check. So when he starts to share with you, even in little ways, that's not something to take lightly. That's a man letting you in, and what you do in that moment determines whether he'll want to open up again. If he feels brushed off, ignored, or judged, those walls go right back up. But if he feels like you're listening, not just with your ears, but with your eyes, your body language, your silence that says, "I'm here with you," then he starts to associate you with safety. And safety is addictive. Think about how you feel when someone really listens to you. When you can tell they're not waiting to jump in with their own story, but they're locked in on what you're saying, almost like nothing else in the world matters in that moment. You feel valued, you feel important, you feel seen. That's the exact experience men get hooked on, because in a world where they're often expected to just perform, to provide, to keep moving, that moment of being truly heard feels like a release. And it's not just the big conversations that matter. Sometimes it's the little details he mentions, the stressful day at work, the small accomplishment, the random memory, and you catching it, remembering it, and bringing it up later shows him that you really were listening. That's what sinks in deep. Listening with presence doesn't mean being silent the whole time either. It's about responding in a way that shows you're tuned in. Sometimes it's just a nod. Sometimes it's a, "that makes sense." Sometimes it's a thoughtful question that helps him go a little deeper. What matters is that you're not distracted, not half in the conversation while scrolling your phone, not nodding along while your mind is somewhere else. You're giving him the gift of your attention, and that's one of the rarest gifts anyone can give. And here's the beautiful part. When a man feels consistently listened to, when he feels like you're not only hearing his words, but honoring his feelings, he starts to connect with you on a deeper level than he even expected. He doesn't just see you as a partner. He sees you as someone he can trust with the parts of himself he usually hides from the world. And once you've reached that place, it's hard for him to walk away, because very few people ever make him feel that way. A man will always remember the woman who made him feel heard, because in her presence, his voice mattered and his soul felt safe. Mystery is one of the most powerful forces in attraction, and it often comes from independence. When a woman has her own life, her own passions, her own sense of purpose outside of a man, she creates a kind of pull that's hard to resist. It's not about being distant or unavailable on purpose. It's about genuinely being fulfilled in who you are, whether or not he's by your side. And that kind of independence is magnetic because it shows him you're not depending on him to define your worth or fill your happiness. Instead, you invite him to be part of a life that's already rich and meaningful. Men are naturally drawn to chase, to pursue, to earn. And if he feels like he already has all of you before he's proven anything, the spark fades quickly. But when you have independence, when you have things you love doing, goals you're chasing, and a world outside of him, you create a sense of wonder. He doesn't feel like he has you completely figured out, and that keeps his interest alive. He'll want to know more. He'll want to step into your world. He'll want to understand what makes you light up. And the more he wants to discover, the more connected he becomes. Independence doesn't mean shutting him out or acting like you don't need him. It's the opposite. It's showing that you choose him, not that you cling to him. There's a big difference between wanting someone and needing someone just to feel whole. When a man feels that you're with him because you want to be, not because you can't function without him, it deepens his respect and his desire. It tells him that you're strong enough to stand on your own, but you value him enough to let him stand with you. That balance is intoxicating. Think about it like this: if every moment of your life revolves around him, he becomes the center of your world, and over time, he may start to take it for granted. But if you continue building your own world, whether that's through your career, your friendships, your hobbies, or your personal growth, you remain intriguing. You give him space to miss you, to wonder what you're up to feel that little spark of curiosity that keeps attraction alive. That's what independence does. It keeps the fire burning because there's always more of you to discover. And it's not just about keeping his attention. Independence also protects your happiness. When you have your own life, you're not waiting for him to entertain you, to validate you, or to complete you. You're already complete, and that makes your relationship healthier. It takes the pressure off him to be everything, and it allows the two of you to meet as partners instead of as crutches for each other's emptiness. That freedom makes the bond stronger because it's built on choice, not on dependency. The truth is, men don't stay addicted to women who make them their entire world. They stay addicted to women who inspire them, who challenge them, who make them feel like they have to keep showing up as their best to deserve her. And the easiest way to do that is to hold on to your independence, to keep your mystery alive by never giving up the parts of yourself that existed before he came along. A man will chase the woman who values her independence because in her presence, he doesn't just feel wanted, he feels compelled to keep earning his place in her life. If there's one thing that can make a man feel like he can move mountains, it's appreciation. Not flattery, not over-the-top praise, but genuine acknowledgement of who he is and what he does. Men are wired to want to feel valued for their efforts, and when the woman in his life makes him feel seen in that way, it creates a bond that's hard to break. It's not about feeding his ego, it's about recognizing the parts of him that often go unnoticed. Because the truth is, men rarely hear it. They might hear criticism, they might hear what they're not doing enough of, but simple appreciation, that's rare. And what's rare becomes addictive. Think about the way a man feels when he's put effort into something. Maybe it's fixing something around the house. Maybe it's planning a date. Maybe it's just working long hours to provide. On the surface, he might shrug it off like it's no big deal, but underneath, he's watching to see if you notice. And when you do, when you say something as simple as, "I love how you handled that," or "Thank you for doing that for us," it hits him in a place that makes him want to do it again. It's like fuel, because appreciation doesn't just validate what he's done, It inspires him to keep showing up. And here's the secret: appreciation doesn't have to be huge. It's not about grand speeches or constant compliments. It's in the little moments. It's in catching the effort he puts in and letting him know you see it. It's in showing that you don't take him for granted. That doesn't mean ignoring his flaws or never addressing issues when they come up. It means balancing that with gratitude for what he does right. And when a man feels that balance, he doesn't feel like he's constantly failing. He feels motivated to keep building. The mistake some people make is thinking appreciation makes you look needy or weak, like if you acknowledge his efforts too much, you're giving him all the power. But it's actually the opposite. Appreciation doesn't make you smaller. It makes you magnetic. It draws him closer because it creates a positive cycle. He gives you notice, he feels good, and he gives more. That cycle builds connection, builds trust, and makes him associate being with you with feeling valued. And once a man feels valued in your presence, he doesn't want to lose that. Appreciation also sets you apart, because in a world where people are quick to criticize and slow to recognize, being the one who genuinely notices him makes you unforgettable. It's not about building him up into something he's not. It's about shining a light on the good that's already there. And when you do that consistently, you'll find that he not only becomes more addicted to you, but he becomes a better version of himself in the process. The kind of woman who knows how to appreciate without overdoing it, without losing her standards, is the kind of woman who leaves a lasting mark. Because she's not just beautiful, she's not just fun, she's not just independent. She's also the one who makes him feel like his efforts matter. And that feeling is one he'll keep chasing. A man will always stay addicted to the woman who makes him feel appreciated, because in her presence he doesn't just feel wanted. He feels valued.